very much, and I won't be too offended by the fact that I know most of you are here for lunch. And I know that the vast majority of you aren't here to be spoken at for an hour. That's not my plan at all. One of the most important tools that a politician has is not his voice, but it's their ears, our ears, and our capacity to listen, our capacity to represent our constituents is directly related to our capacity to know our constituents and to hear them and to listen to them and to represent their concerns in Ottawa. Now, far too often, you get politicians who feel that their role is to represent the federal government in their riding. They show up with big checks, maybe with a logo on it, maybe not. The idea is that they are representing the government for the people of their riding. Well, that's completely ass backwards, to be blunt about it. The role of a politician is to represent the people of his or her riding in Ottawa. That's what our democratic structure and our system is all about. It's about making sure that everyone in the riding has a voice for them in Ottawa. Now, one of the challenges is always nobody gets elected by 100% of the riding, not even Stephen Harper in Calgary Southwest. Everyone has a multiple of voices in the riding that they are choosing to represent. Now, they try to represent, obviously, best the majority, or the people who voted for them and chose them to be their representative. But you have to make sure that Ottawa is a collection of and a reflection of the actual voices of everyone across the country. Now, the reality is there are disproportionate amounts of people from particular groups who aren't being adequately represented in Ottawa. One of the ones that we always point to, and one of the big problems, and it's almost a chicken and egg problem, which comes first, it's a vicious circle, catch-22, where young people don't vote, not in proportions as great as other segments of society, and they tend not to get overly involved, with the exception of the free lunch seekers like all of you. And therefore, politicians in return, who have limited resource and limited time and limited energy in terms of being able to get themselves elected, choose to not invest in young people. Invest in terms of their time, invest in terms of their energy, invest in terms of their capacity to offer solutions to young people. Because, having worked as a high school teacher for about 5 years, and then as a youth advocate and environmental advocate with lots of young people for a subsequent 5-6 years, I've learned that it's not easy to give young people what they want politically. Because young people want the world to get fixed. They want to know that they're part of a generation that's going to address the big issues that our planet is facing. I remember when I was out in Calgary a number of months ago, I was about to address a high school auditorium, and just before going up on stage, I approached some of the kids in the front row, sort of chit-chatting. I said, "So, what is it that you guys want me to talk about?" They're like, "Oh, well, we're young people, so we want you to talk about the environment." Calgary? Yeah. Young people, we have a capacity to think long term and to embrace and to be inspired by the extraordinary challenges that we're facing collectively. We see them as an opportunity to shift things, to make things better. Then we get confronted with politics, which seems to be always about business as usual, about electoral strategy, about just pleasing people just enough so you can pick up a few more seats in the next election and maybe try to wield power. Fundamentally, you have to remember something. There are two types of people in politics, and only two. People who want to be something, and people who want to do something. And that focus, that capacity to get things done in politics is where collectively we are failing. Where Canadian Parliament, I mean, there are greater offenders than others in Parliament, but our capacity to get things done has been severely limited by the emphasis on sound bites, on division, on wedge issues, on short-term opportunities, in a collective dumbing down of our political solutions that has voters picking what is in their best short-term self-interest. Because over the past 4 years, we've had a government whose primary design has been to get Canadians to expect less of their government, to expect less from our leaders, to demand less of ourselves. And to a large extent, they've succeeded. Negative advertising, attack ads, divisive campaigning isn't about getting people to choose to vote for you rather than someone else. It's about convincing people to stay home on voting day, to throw up your hands and get super cynical about everything, and unplug and say, you know what, they're all a bunch of whatevers, I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to legitimize them with my vote. Because if you do that, it's called voter suppression. If you do that effectively, and at the same time you mobilize your core minority base to come out and support you, you can get yourself elected. And if you doubt that, just look at the fact that Stephen Harper is 8 seats shy of a majority right now. The politics of division are extraordinarily effective. The politics of division are extraordinarily effective. You can pick the right group of people, pander to them, brush off everyone else, you can get elected. Like I said, he's proof of that. However, you cannot govern an extraordinarily rich, complex country like Canada at a time when the challenges are deep and real by having divided your populace. You cannot look for easy solutions, which is always the initial temptation of having people blame another group for all their ills. Oh, it's the recession. Oh, we'll blame it on this. Oh, we're worried about crime. Oh, we'll blame it on that. Oh, we're worried about this other thing. Always pointing fingers, instead of getting people to recognize that what animates us, what drives us as a people, as a country, is actually what pulls us together. Our shared values, our shared vision, our shared role in the world as a country that can step up and that must step up on environmental issues, on human rights issues, on issues addressing conflict and misunderstanding around the world, on poverty issues. Canada is a place where we should be generating solutions for the world. Instead, we're being told to expect less of ourselves. We're being encouraged to coast by, to worry about right now, and let people worry about 5 years from now, in 5 years. And the capacity of Canadians to be, and to continue to be, the force for good in this world that we've needed, that the world has needed us to be in so many cases, is severely limited.